Well, for some of us, we're over the hump this week. Not me, but hopefully you guys are, and you're going to have an awesome end of your week going into the weekend. I'm doing confessional videos all weekend, so anyway. So I wanted to say a few things. Number one, for the Patreons that are watching this video, I want to say thank you, because without you, there would be no YouTube channel, because frankly, the ads don't pay enough. So just wanted to say thank you, for your contribution in the Patreon of $6 a month or $10.99 if you're at that level. Thank you. Secondly, I wanted to say please take advantage of the search engine in the Patreon. If you don't know how to use it or you're lost, email me. I'm like the librarian of the Patreon, and I don't mind. I know it like the back of my hand. I know where every piece of gossip is in there, and there are hundreds of posts, so I want to help you. Please don't be shy. I love to help, okay? So I just want to say that. And if you have been in the Patreon and you left, come back and check it out every now and again, because it gets more and more robust over time, okay? I understand some people go in and binge listen and then they leave, and that's okay. All right, so quickly, I just wanted to say to you that I was going to talk about a fight of gossip I heard between Kyle, Kathy, and Kim, but I'm going to hold that and do a separate video about it on Monday. So come back on Monday, and I'm just going to do a video dedicated to that, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But the Phipps White case I am going to cover in the beginning of this video to a certain degree. The deep dive is in my bonus audio for Monday if you're at that membership level in the Patreon. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so let's first talk about Erika being served video that went viral when she was coming back from Hawaii after being with Diana and Lisa Rinna there on vacation off the show. And what happened was she was walking out of a baggage claim area.
Thank you so much.
This woman handed her a bunch of lawsuits, and she just grabbed them screw you, and walked away with Lisa. So that lawsuit, just to be clear, had nothing to do with the Phipps White lawsuits, which, also made quite a ruckus in the Bravo community, right? I just wanted you to be clear. The lawsuit she got served with was Jay Edelson's racketeering civil lawsuit in the California jurisdiction, which he's been, saying is coming for a while, or perhaps he's been trying to serve her for a while. I don't know. But he finally served her, and that's what that's about. And Jay Edelson believes he can prove that Erika Jayne Girardi is part of a scheme to perpetuate the Girardi Keys fraud against the clients. So he has what he believes can prove that there was some role for her in that scheme and some understanding by her. So we'll have to see how that plays out. By the way, I did a podcast with Jay Edelson in the Patreon, and we talk a lot about this from almost 2 years ago, I think now. So go check out that episode if you're in the Patreon, me talking to Jay Edelson. It's the same Jay Edelson, okay? So then a press release was sent out on July 14, 2022, but I didn't report on it till Monday because I was still validating it. The press release said, new cases allege Bank of America / Merrill Lynch aided and abetted Real Housewives Tom and Erika Girardi's massive fraud scheme, imposing as victims, father, and widow to steal $27.459 billion of victims' sovereign tower settlement and purchase of Spelling Manor, banks still refusing to help the victims. Okay, so this gentleman, and let me tell you a little bit about the guy who filed this lawsuit, okay? And then I'm going to talk about what I kind of briefly did to validate it, okay? So Nicholas Phipps White appears to be a large real estate developer that has a presence in Palm Beach and in California, and he's from some sort of a blue blood family. I believe his shtick is to sort of be this overly blue blood, probably very old school, a little bit quirky, rich guy. That's my feeling about it. I've met a few of him in Beverly Hills, and the way the press release reads from his company, it sounds like that to me, okay? Anyway, he was working on a planned Marriott dual-branded Ritz-Carlton St. Regis 32-story 800-room luxury hotel, and I guess there was some sort of sale done to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's public F. Now, I found a press release from 2019 of Tom Girardi making an announcement about the press release again came from Mr. Phipps White about him having a similar project in Palm Beach, which is a little confusing to me. But anyway, we'll get into that in a second. But basically, Nicholas Phipps White is the 100% owner of the Hollywood Land Development Company. He does have a LinkedIn. There's nothing really on it except the Hollywood Land Development Company, LLC. And basically, I guess the big thing with this company, which is his primary company, is that they had this project called the Sovereign Towers Project, which is related to this concept of a Regis Marriott dual-branded Ritz-Carlton St. Regis property. Now, these do happen all over Miami, so I wasn't surprised to hear that they might be doing one in Palm Beach. I don't know if this gentleman did the ones in Miami. I haven't gone that deep on this yet, on him. But I do know that they do them in Miami. I've stayed in one. So anyway, this man, Nicholas Phipps White, he says he's the great-grandson of the philanthropist U.S. Senator Lawrence Phipps of Colorado, treasurer of Carnegie Steel, who architected U.S. Steel, the first billion-dollar company in the world. Mr. Nicholas Phipps White is husband to Mrs. Marga Phipps White, Phipps White, MBA, who married in Palm Beach, Florida on July 21st, 2010, and the son of Yale-educated architect Lawrence Phipps, managing director of the Sovereign Towers. Mr. Nicholas Phipps White is also the grandson of Harvard-educated Brigadier General Nicholas Allen, USAF, former Judge Advocate General and former Assistant Secretary of Commerce for International Affairs for the United States of America. Okay, so he is basically making everybody understand, and I have a feeling he's older. Okay, I don't know his age, but I have a feeling this gentleman is older. He's from Palm Beach, and the way this is written is really old school for someone who wants to know their whole, legacy of why they're important, rich, and everybody should listen to them and legitimate, okay? So anyway, back to the press release I found from 2019. I want to talk about that, and then we'll move on to the lawsuit. One more thing. I found out something else about Mr. Phipps per one of his press releases that he did a long time ago. It says, the Phipps family have a 100-year history in Palm Beach County, having previously owned 2/3 of Palm Beach Island and had gifted Palm Beach County for the multi-acre oceanfront Phipps Ocean Park and Phipps Tennis Center for public enjoyment. Okay, so in 2019, this gentleman's company releases another press release. It's Tom Girardi thanks Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw for the recovery of the Sovereign Tower 1 stakeholders' property, who made the largest gift of $370 million to Florida law enforcement. That's the name of the press release. So this press release says that Palm Beach, Florida, July 25th, 2019, the Hollywood Land Development Company, LLC, the developer and owner of Sovereign Tower 1, same name as that other press release, for the planned 800-room Marriott dual-branded Ritz-Carlton St. Regis best-in-class, blah, 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 project featuring celebrity chef Wolfgang Puck's Spago and Cut restaurants, non-refundable contract deposits, and then they throw out this whopper number, which is $6,341,760,000 or 776,000. Okay, and they go on to say August 2016 sale were recovered by state attorney David Ehrenberg in Palm Beach County, Florida. The Palm Beach County Sheriff Office, Sheriff Rick Bradshaw, serves as the custodian of the victim's property. And then he goes on to say in the press release, the non-refundable contract deposits had been stolen nearly 3 years ago from the victims, consisting of the Hollywood Land Development Company's Sovereign Tower 1 stakeholders in regard to the planned Sovereign Tower 1 custom luxury hotel project. The Hollywood Land Development Company's Sovereign Tower 1 stakeholders were assisted by famed Aaron Brockovich, Tom Girardi, Esquire of Girardi and Keys Law, who serves as their victim's advocate and had provided key information to the Department of Justice, Deputy Attorney General Rod T. Rosenstein, and State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg that led to the recovery of the victim's non-refundable contract deposits with the PBSO. Okay, so then they have a quote from Mr. Girardi. Yep. You ready? Here's what Girardi says. Although no charges were brought forward against the wrongdoers and the victim's company currency will not be used as evidence against the wrongdoers, the Hollywood Land Development Company, the developer and owner of the Sovereign Tower 1, has already gifted Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office with more than $370 million for PBSO's hard work in the recovery of the Sovereign Tower 1 stakeholders' property, which is the single largest gift to Florida law enforcement in history. In fact, victims are never required to gift anything in order to receive their property back, Mr. Girardi noted. Florida state law specifically protects all victims to ensure that their property, once not needed as evidence, is promptly returned by the sheriff to the owner on demand without delay. Mr. Nicholas Phipps commented on the press release, the Phipps family are extremely proud to be a very important philanthropic part of Palm Beach County, Florida's history for the last 100 years. Okay, so these are old school Floridian blue bloods, and he's the CEO of Hollywood Land Development Company. And then they go on to who he's involved with again. Okay, there's one more quote from Tom Girardi in here, but what I really floored me was guess who's the PR Newswire contact for this press release? It's Tom Girardi of Girardi Keys. At an email address and phone number, 323-219-9255 and 218-793 at email4pr.com. Okay? So what does Tom say in the end of this release? The facts are, since the June 19, 2019 release of the Hollywood Land Development Sovereign Tower 1 stakeholders, property, all of our scheduled appointments with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office for the return of the victim's currency check were canceled by PBSO. PBSO Legal Affairs Lisa Rubin told us that the currency check could not be printed because the individuals that were needed were on vacation and on a separate occasion said that PBSO would 2 weeks. And then it says, however, Sheriff Bradshaw is aware of his obligation as the custodian of the victim's company property to return the property on demand without exception, which he relayed to the victims back on October 16, 2018. For each day that Sheriff Bradshaw holds on the victim's property, it costs the victims an additional $282,947 a day in lost interest income derived from their currency from the sale of their hotel. To be clear, for each day that Sheriff Bradshaw does not return the victim's currency, he is collecting $282,947 a day from the victim's currency, which simply is not fair or ethical given that victims have been without the property for almost 3 years and just made the largest gift to law enforcement in history, Mr. Girardi added. So there is no doubt that Tom Girardi, at least in 2019, had a relationship with Mr. Phipps White. In addition to that, I went through the press release that recently came out on July 14, 2022, and I went through it, and I verified that the people that were mentioned in the press release indeed were related to the Aaron Spelling Manor estate sale, and the way that he described it as an anonymous sale back in 2019 actually did occur. And it was anonymous. Originally, people believed it was a Saudi king who purchased the property. But now, this man believes that Erika Jayne Girardi and Tom Girardi used the funds that was part of a settlement from this original case back in 2019 to pay a bunch of different people that they wanted to incentivize to work for them in different capacities, but also to buy the Spelling Manor, Candyland or whatever what they call it. Anyway, so what would the motive be? Well, the motive would be that if I suppose Girardi and Erika had this $1 billion and they bought the Spelling Mansion, they could fix it up. They could then sell it at a profit. They could pay back this gentleman the money that they took from the settlement, plus they would make a huge amount of profit on it. You know, could be like $40 or $50 million. And then I guess before this guy knows his settlement money's gone, give him the money back. He'd never be the wiser, and they would be 40 or 50 million richer. And all of it's done in an anonymous transaction. But I think they ran out of time. And then, so that I do think they were trying to make money off his money before he noticed the settlement money was missing. That's what I think. Okay, just my theory. So back to the July 14th, 2022 press release that Mr. White Phipps released. It does read like a thriller movie. However, what I am gathering about this gentleman, who is obviously from this very old school vibe, is that he uses press release to document what he's been told publicly so that people in politics and at these really high levels of money that he's, functioning at because he's so wealthy, that there's accountability there, okay? And he uses it also to get out what he thinks has happened about something, not to really announce something. That's what I get out of it. That's what he did in this press release. Mr. Phipps White, who seems very important, wrote a press release about a scheme that Tom Girardi and Erika Girardi did against him. And he is telling you how he thinks it went down. Okay. Now, as I read the press release, I did validate information in the press release. Okay. For example, were the real estate brokers that he cited doing what he said they were doing in regards to the Spelling Manor? They were. Did he have the right price listed that the mansion allegedly was sold for in 2019? He did. Was the Spelling Manor indeed bought anonymously, as he claimed? It was. And so as I went through the press release, I realized, and I go into great depth on this, that there was nothing to debunk it based on his assessment of what went down in the scheme against him. Okay, so the press release starts out by basically saying that there were 2 lawsuits that Mr. White Phipps filed. One was on June 7, 2021, and he does attach the complaint. Nicholas Phipps White versus Bank of America, N.A., and Merrill Lynch, Pierce, and Smith Incorporated. And then he goes on to cite another lawsuit he filed, which was filed on July 2nd, 2022 in the United States District Court for Central District of California. And that one was him against Anywhere Real Estate, Inc. I forgot to mention the first one was in a Miami circuit court. Okay, so he then goes on to explain what these cases are about. Now, I did, as part of my due diligence, look up the docket of the June 7, 2021 Miami case. And that case is a case of negligence against Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, Smith Incorporated, and Bank of America, okay? And it is very lengthy. It isn't just some idiot throwing up like 7 things, like a complaint and, 6 filings. It's filing and pages of filings on the docket, okay? Pages of it. And if you want to see me scroll that docket, go to my video that is about Mario the butler spilling the tea about Ultimate Girls Trip, because I put it in the beginning of that video, because like I always tell you guys, I Easter egg my videos, okay? So the thumbnail says one thing and then I throw in stuff because I like to reward people for watching my videos, even if they're not into the topic. Isn't that weird that I do that? Okay, so here's the story of the fraud, okay, that's being alleged. Nicholas Phipps White was supposed to get a $459 billion check from related to the Sovereign Towers settlement. And it was supposed to be like given to him at his home address, okay? He alleges that Erika Girardi and Tom Girardi, who obviously Tom was working on the case, we learned that from the previous press release from 2019, found out about this money and obviously the check because he was working on the case. And what he did was he created this Merrill Lynch account in the name of Nicholas Phipps White, but he had nothing to do with this account, and took that check settlement in and put it in this account. And the way that he did it was by pretending to be family members of White Phipps. And I'll read you that part in a minute. But basically, once the money got into this account, it is alleged that Erika Girardi and Tom Girardi used it to make a purchase of the Spelling Mansion in Beverly Hills. And what's wild about that is it involved Hilton and Highland, which obviously Rick Hilton is related to, and Mauricio's company, the agency, was was the listing agency. He wasn't the listing agent, but he was the listing agency on the property. And that has now implicated Mauricio in some way, okay, besides the agent that was like the official agent on the listing. And I'll get into that in a second also. He alleges this is the way it went down. And this is why Bank of America and Merrill Lynch were fraudulent, because they should have known this was a fraud, basically. But basically it says that without the plaintiff's knowledge, an existing customer of Bank of America and resident of California with a fraudulent Italian passport and forged unrecorded birth certificate for the plaintiff by disgraced and disbarred attorney Tom Girardi, naming 83-year-old Girardi as his father, and a fraudulent unrecorded marriage certificate naming 51-year-old Erika Girardi posing as a fictitious Erika White. You probably have seen Erika White, flagged in places because of that, as his wife and now widow. The fraudulent Italian passport Bank of America accepted was illicitly obtained from the Italian consulate in San Francisco by Tom Girardi, who was actually born in Italy and immigrated to the U.S. in 1954. With now expired immigration papers, Girardi could face deportation from the United States. And then he goes on to say, disgraced Tom Girardi's 51-year-old wife from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Erika Nicole Girardi, a.k.a. Erika Jayne, fraudulently posed as a fabricated Erika White, who perpetrated to be the wife and widow of plaintiff Nicholas Phipps White, chairman and CEO of the Hollywood Land Development Company in California. Bank of America Merrill Lynch aided and abetted Erika Girardi by accepting, among other forged documents, illegitimate and unrecorded letters of probate, granting her control as the administrator of the Merrill Lynch Global Consumer Account 649-13284. So he goes on to say that the heads of like Bank of America know his family, you know, from Yale and New Haven and all this stuff, which was a little bit confusing because his family, the Phipps family, is so big in Palm Beach, but apparently he has ties to New Haven, Connecticut as well. But again, he's saying like, we're so big as a family and we're so important, you know, how could you not know this was fraud, basically is what he's saying. Guess he hasn't been to Coral Gables lately. So then he goes on with more allegations saying that once this account 649-13284 was set up, Erika Jayne unlawfully spent the plaintiff's settlement money from this global account, which is why you see a picture of Erika Jayne with him showing she has a Merrill Lynch global account because a paparazzi caught her leaving a place with it showing. So he's trying to say, you know, it's not that compelling, but he's basically saying, look, she has a card and she's using it. But basically, he claims that there were 25 unauthorized Visa debit cards to Erika Jayne from the plaintiff's global account. And those cards were given out to friends, political operatives, and associates of the Democratic political fundraiser Tom Jayne and his wife, Erika Jayne, were funding and involved with. And we know she was one of the biggest donors to Gavin Newsom. I mean, Tom Jayne was. So it's like, okay, yes, it sounds like unbelievable, but we kind of know it's true because Gavin Newsom admitted it on Watch What Happens Live. So he also says there's other bills paid that I think he's alleging were paid towards the operation of Spelling Manor, which I'm going to explain that he believes they bought with some of this whopping, you know, because this is $1 billion settlement, they bought this property. Erika Jayne and Tom Jayne bought it as part of this scheme or scam. He said that in the amount of $119,750 million, that there was a purchase done on July 2nd, 2019. It was an LLC, and it was an anonymous buyer, and it was allegedly a birthday present for his wife, Spelling Manor. That's how they justified this anonymous purchase. And he lists who's involved in this transaction. The property was co-listed by the agency and Anywhere Real Estate Inc.'s Coldwell Banker Realty, and the plaintiff was disguised as anonymous buyer represented by the recently deceased Jeff Highland of Hilton and Highland, with the escrow by West Coast Escrow Company of Beverly Hills, California, and titling of the property by Fidelity National Title Group of Los Angeles. Now, he alleges that he was able to finally get a hold of Bank of America about this crazy fraud, and they did suspend this Erika White account. But he said that he believed that Bank of America's CEO, Brian Moynihan, knew Tom Jayne, and that may have somehow allowed this fraud to happen. That's what he's alleging. Now, he's saying he's reported this to the world, okay? Now, again, is this far-fetched? Because after the LA Times article and his penetration into the California Bar Association, and also his incredible influence over judge selection, I don't know. Is this so far-fetched? I'm starting to believe it's more far-fetched to think that this didn't happen than that it did. Anyway, he alleges that U.S. Treasury Sovereign Tower settlement check from February 26, 2021, which was reported on April 26, 2021 as missing to the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, was given to and illicitly deposited by Erika Jayne, who was posing as the plaintiff's widow, Erika White, into the Merrill Lynch global account 649132284. Bottom line. So this is where we get into Rick Hilton and Mauricio, okay? Because you guys love this part of this whole thing, okay? The violations by the realtors and attorneys regarding the Spelling Manor, which include fellow reality cast members. By the way, if I haven't mentioned this, we are talking about Aaron Spelling and Candy Spelling's ginormous, like White House level, probably bigger estate in Beverly Hills, okay? It is the one in, the same one. It says, which include fellow reality cast members Rick Hilton of Hilton and Highland and Mauricio Umansky of the agency, in addition to Coldwell Banker Realty Tony Papio, Jade Mills, and Michael Caruso, broker for California for the agency, have been reported to the California Department of Real Estate for investigation. Attorney misconduct complaints have been filed to the California State Bar on Tom Girardi of the now defunct Girardi to Bank of America's owner, Berkshire Hathaway Vice Chairman Attorney Charlie Munger, friend of Girardi and fellow Pasadena, California resident, founder of the law firm Munger, Tolles, and Olson, wow, of Los Angeles, wow, big one, and who recently resigned on March 28, 2022 as chairman of the Daily Journal Corporation after the fraud was reported to the Attorney General Garland on March 22nd, 2022, that his publication, The Daily Journal in Los Angeles, aided Erika Jayne in running a fraudulent legal notice for the illegitimate manufactured, quote, Erika White, Bank of America accepted. It goes on to say Michael Caruso, who worked for the agency, who's also running for, he's saying, as a candidate to the Los Angeles city, he's running for mayor. He said that he surrendered his law license on July 2nd, 2019, the day of the 594 South Mapleton Drive, Los Angeles transaction from Merrill Lynch and Bank of America's account. So I guess, why is he surrendering his law license, the real estate agent, the day of that transaction? I didn't look that up. You guys should look that up. You do some. If you find that's true, I'll post it in the Patreon. So where is Mr. White Phipps in all of this now, given what, he believes transpired? He's saying that they've stopped, I think, any further fraud from occurring, but he still doesn't have access to this account that's under this Erika White's name, which is basically the money, $27 billion, which is money that belongs to him because it was given out in this settlement to do with this real estate hotel transaction we discussed earlier. He's doing what I would imagine he should. I mean, he's filing a claim of negligence against Bank of America so that either their insurance will cover it, and whatever their insurance doesn't cover because it's negligence, he can seek further remedy on the director's insurance for mistakes they made. And he's also looking for the company that holds the title for Spelling Manor to be changed to him, since he is claiming that it was bought with his money. Why isn't he going for Erika Jayne Girardi and Tom Girardi? Well, frankly, they've got no money. They're broke. So he's going for the bigger game. A lot of people asked, were they named in the lawsuit? They're named in the body and the description, but they are not party to the lawsuit. So I think his thing is he's going to call their bad dealings out to the world. He's going to report them to the regulation bodies to hope that they get indicted or something bad happens to them. But he's going to focus on getting his money back from people who could actually pay it, like Bank of America's insurance company, and the company that owns the title of Spelling Manor, which might explain why they're selling it again right now. Get rid of that stolen property as soon as you can. Anyway, he is saying this is really urgent at this point. I think he wants to take title over of the Spelling Mansion. He's looking for that. That's why he's suing the real estate company. He wants the title to the Spelling Mansion, which technically was bought with his money. He wants the return of access to the funds, and he wants to collect anything that was, spent, the difference from the insurance money and, that exists in Bank of America. And if there isn't enough, he wants to collect it from the director's insurance for mistakes that could be made by like leadership in the company. And that's what he's seeking. And so we'll have to see. Now, Bank of America hasn't responded. Erika posted like a cryptic post, which was like, you know, who is Erika White? I don't know. It's her like running into it, I suppose. But needless to say, there's a lot to validate this. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I know Ronald has said, hey, anybody can file a lawsuit. And this sounds like, you know, a sci-fi movie. I get it. But I'm, you know, in this world, in the Girardi Keese world, knowing what we know, knowing he worked with Anthony Pellicano, knowing the politicians he paid and the depth that he reached with politicians and police and I mean everything and the level of players he was dealing with, we can't say this is BS. We have to look at it. And as you can see from this video, and if you go listen to my bonus audio for Monday, there's a lot to say, hey, this could be true. So I had to do this, you know, for you guys, okay? So let me know what you guys think. And now, part 2 of this video, which is the recap. Boy, I know. Go get a water. Get some water. Go get some wine. Go grab a snack. If you're at your work, walk around the room for a second and come back and let's do the recap, okay? Yay! I know this is a long one, so this we'll call part 2. Oh my God, my son's screaming. I'll put the time of this, you know, part 2 in the description in case you guys want to like come back and, you know, watch it later or whatever. But here's now the recap to The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, season 12, episode 12. I love you guys. I would only do this for you. God, is there so much in this week's episode. It was awesome. I have so much insight into this week's episodes. The first thing I want to say is that now we know Erika Jayne has an eating disorder along with Crystal Minkoff, right? Because Crystal Minkoff has admitted that she's bulimic. She throws up her food when she eats it because she feels guilt. And I guess because she's conscious to look good and have her body image be super thin in Beverly Hills. You know, I think that's pretty typical of Beverly Hills. People are constantly in a struggle with their weight there because the men reward the women that are thin and that are modelly looking, and they make things really hard if you're not that look in Beverly Hills. For you, can't get in the restaurant, can't get in the club, can't get a date, don't date the rich guy, can't get invited to the party, can't. So basically, you know, your social life is totally determined on your weight. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there. Now, Erika has an eating disorder as well, which becomes apparent to me in this episode because she says to Crystal, why don't you do a laxative? And instead of throwing it up and ruining your teeth, basically, you could go out the rear part and it's much less, you know, difficult on the body. So Erika submits that to Crystal as an alternative to throwing up. Now, I thought that it was interesting. I think, you know, Erika was trying to be really honest that she has an eating disorder with Crystal. It came off as like a villain. It came off, and I can't stand Erika. I can't wait till she's indicted. Like, it's all of that for me. But I want to say that I think in this instance, Erika was also saying to Crystal, like, I also have an eating disorder, and this is how I do it in Beverly Hills. And she was trying to be really raw for the audience's sake, I think. And I just think it came off in the edit like she was trying to kill Crystal by giving her another way to have a more, you know, an even worse eating disorder. That's how it came off in the edit, right? Like she's trying to kill Crystal with her, you know, by giving her like another way to like become so skinny and sick. But I also think that there's another way of looking at it, which is that Erika was trying to be really honest about her own eating disorder. And like, it's not unusual in Beverly Hills for everybody to have an eating disorder. I know, shocking, isn't it? By the way, I've had one. I lived in Beverly Hills. I got so skinny. Oh my gosh. I'm never telling how I did it though. Oh my goodness. I'm lucky I'm not dead. Anyway, what I will say, my loves, is I'm going to put a phone number for eating disorders in the description of this video in case you want to call, because it can kill you. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it, because there's more. You know what? I realized, I said at the end of my time in LA, I was like, you know what? Screw these people. I'm never going to look like they want me to look. I'm never going to be thin enough to get like, you know, the most richest guy or the best guy, whatever. I'm just going to, you know, do my best to build my business, right? And to be like considered something more than just some candy that some guy can eat whenever he wants, or some, you know, purse that some guy carries around like a trophy. So Erika gets hammered with her medication again. This is like the 7th time. You know, Kyle is protecting Erika because she's having flashbacks of when Kim Richards was called out for being an alcoholic and drug addict on the show, and the devastating effects it had on her and her family, which I remember. And, you know, so Kyle's trying not to give in to this concept, and the audience is sort of going, what the hell is wrong with you, Kyle? I kind of get it just because I saw the behind the scenes of it, you know, but I can see why you guys would be like, what's wrong with you? Erika's like obviously slowly killing herself with drugs and alcohol. Anyway, Erika gets really messy as usual, and she starts singing like it's karaoke night over Asher, who is trying to show off his voice, because we now know the real reason that Diana Jenkins is on the show is because she's trying to promote Asher Monroe, who's her husband and she just had a baby with, and that's the whole, you know, did she also have miscarriage? Anyway, Asher and her, I don't know if you guys know this, but they've had a record label together for years that hasn't really produced anything. And originally the way that they sort of came together was Diana Jenkins funded Asher's career. And so as a result of that, like that's where they connected on. She was like his patron of the arts, like to him, okay? She was like his patron. So essentially then they, I guess, fall in love and or they hook up, whatever. I don't know. That's how it goes down, okay? So he just released an album I think 3 weeks ago or something. And obviously, you know, I think that was her goal, to try to get Asher finally the music career he's been looking for through the fame that she could generate through the show, and also having him perform as much as she can throw in there to get him attention, so he might get, you know, be able to finally sell records and have it be noticed and maybe have somebody want to do something with him. Yeah. Think about it, right? Rihanna watches the show, right? Not a bad plan. But now I know why she's on. Okay, really quick, let me show you something. And they used me in a flashback. I can't believe it. Bravo put me in some sort of promo this week and on their little feed thing, and now they use me in a flashback. What's happening? Pigs must be flying somewhere. Anyway, but that was kind of fun to see. By the way, game night was before, and the glasses was before they decided they were going to edit me out of the show as much as possible. So that's why I seem like there's these like mega moments and then I just like fall off a cliff. If you ever watch season 2. All right. They took Dana out back and shot her. Okay, so now I'm going to jump to PK lying to Dory about his DUI. First of all, something that really struck me was that he said, what was I supposed to do? Call you at 4 a.m? And I thought that he was with a business colleague having like some sort of business situation. So what the hell are you doing having a business situation at 4 a.m? Now, I know that, you know, DUIs can take a good 30 minutes, but still, what are you doing at 3:30 a.m, coming home from a business meeting, right? I mean, did anyone else find that weird? Okay, and then the other thing is he lies about a really serious thing. He said he delayed to tell her, but he lied about a really serious thing, which says he lies about a lot to me. Lots of trips to London and missing a holiday with his family. Hanukkah. I mean, you know, you guys. Even Dorit mentions that he had to tell her. And Mauricio knew. And, you know, I always say birds of a feather flock together. But I hate to say it. My ex was like having a lot of this type of shenanigans happen, lying about big things, you know, sharing intel with certain friends that have certain ideas about stuff. Anyway, you know, why was PK so concerned about leaving his phone at Kyle's house in the earlier episodes of season 12 when he just came back from London? Did you see he left Dorit crying on a bench and he runs in like he's left his phone at a restaurant, not at a friend's house? Okay? Pretty fishy, if you ask me. And Dorit's brought up divorce a few times now. Where there's smoke, there usually is fire. Anyway, there's more of that in the Patreon if you want to do a search. Again, you have to learn how to use a search engine. You can look up PK, Kemsley, cheating. I mean, right. Okay. Allegedly. Allege. All right, moving on. Dorit's, I think my note says Dorit's screwed. That's what that said. Okay. No, she's not. If they break up, it's going to suck, but she's going to find someone in like 5 minutes flat if she hasn't already. All right. So let's move on. Oh, I noticed that Erika Jayne, Girardi's agent, I think the publicist is Jackie. That's the guy's name. Anyway, he's the girl from the Versailles, Queen of Versailles. Have you guys seen that show? Same guy. Funny. And then we see Erika Jayne Girardi putting together her hair extension promos for her hair, fake hair or whatever. In case you guys weren't privy to it, the Instagram went nuts about this because I guess the quality of the hair was like meh, and you could buy it directly from the manufacturer, and it was like way less expensive than what Erika Jayne Girardi was advertising on her website. And the way people figured that out was originally the website wasn't done really well, and it was like it was actually connecting directly to like the person's site that was like doing it, instead of like, you know, where you couldn't tell where the hair was coming from. Anyway, that was the gist on that. You probably can still see stuff out there about that. Then Lisa Rinna does this confessional video where she's in pink and her makeup is very pink and she looks so weird. She looks like a clown or an alien or I don't know. You guys have to go watch it again and see if you see it. I was going to put it in the video, but I don't have time. This one's taking forever. But I just want you guys to know she looks so weird. I doubt they'll use that confessional video look very much because she just was weird looking. Okay. Anyway, let's see. Then things get really serious. Erika Jayne admits that she's blacked out and she hit her head and she puked. And Lisa's like, you've got to cut the shit. But we don't think she will, but that's what's happening. And Lisa's trying to be a good friend. Garcelle is also sort of like, listen, you know, part of being a friend is to stop someone before they kill themselves with like drugs and alcohol. So, you know, I think we should say something. But then she backs off because Lisa does it for her in a sense and is a closer friend to Erika. We hear that Sutton sadly is alone, you know, during Christmas, and she has COVID and she's just isolated for a part of the show. And she's trying to date, but she's awkward and not good at it, like many women, you know, our age. It's really hard to do, especially with apps and all this stuff. She goes on a date with Sanjay and she's really awkward and they're not really connecting, but she's really trying. And he's aged so much. I freaking almost fell off my couch. I'm not going to lie. The bald spot on the top of his head. he was good looking when he was younger. Like, I just couldn't get over it. It was like shocking. I forgot he was a lawyer. That was kind of good to have like an update on Sanjay. What else happened? Anyway, I don't think Sutton's going to end up with him, but whatever. Good luck, girl. I can't tell you who told me, but Sutton's ex-husband's girlfriend is supposed to be super nice. And I'm not saying that to be mean towards Sutton, but I think Sutton actually should become friends with her because she's super connected. I know all about her. Yeah, I know. Funny, it's such a small world, really, isn't it? We hear sad news, which is that Lisa Rinna's sister died of a drug overdose, which no one has ever talked about. Shocking in the Bravo world that no one knew about that. But yeah, her name was Laureen, I think. I wrote down the name. I can't recall how to pronounce it. I hope I'm doing that justice because that's horrific. And I really felt bad for Lisa Rinna at that moment. It is so difficult when someone has a drug addiction and so many people succumb to it. I'm so conscious about it. Anyway, I've lost so many friends to drugs. Okay, so we move on. Dana's getting emotional. I'm verklempt. Okay. Erika's having sex. This is my Erika Jayne shout out to her hair extension filter. Okay, Erika's having sex but not dating. And that's it. And I guess we see a glimpse into next week's episode of Lisa screaming like a psychopath. And so she's screaming at Sutton like a nut job. So Lisa and Erika are coming for Sutton and Kathy, and that's what's happening here. Yeah, we'll have to see how this all ends up. Anyway, what did you guys think of the episode? How are you? I love you. Have a great, I'm wrecked. I'm going to go lay down and take a nap after this video now. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. You never know what you're going to get on this channel, as you've seen. Mwah. Everything's in the description.